Welcome everyone to this morning's Back on Track session. Iowa College Aid and ICANN are hosting a variety of events this week, really aimed at helping students prepare for their post-secondary adventures. And you can find the link to other sessions happening this week in the chat box. We're happy to have you here joining us this morning for our session entitled The College Going Process with Jamie Coble from Iowa College Aid. First, a couple housekeeping items before we get started. So this is a Zoom meeting, which means that participants can unmute themselves and ask questions. You could also, if you want, drop them in the chat box as well. And we do ask that you keep yourself muted unless you are asking a question, just to cut down on any background noises. This session will be recorded and will be made available to school counselors beginning next week. So if anybody would like access to that recording, reach out to your school counselor. And that is it in terms of our housekeeping notes. So we'll go ahead and get our session kicked off, and I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. And John, I'm just going to actually ask if you are a student or a school, staff member. If you're listening, if you want to drop that in the chat, that'd be great. Mostly just because our presentation today is around college going steps to complete your senior year. So this is a bit more student related. So I'll be presenting more in like a student fashion, talking about what students need to think about their senior year and those college going steps. So we will move right into that. Okay, awesome. All right, so what we look at, and there's a lot of research behind this as well. If you're preparing to go to college, there's, a few steps to take to get there. And we kind of categorize them at Iowa College Aid into 5 different areas. So we talk about preparing to go to college, applying, financing, deciding, and going, which means actually getting there. So throughout this morning, I will be talking about all the steps that kind of take place in each of these areas. I will provide the fair warning that there's a large bulk of presentation in the finance section, just because there's so much involved with the finance piece that there's a lot to talk about there. I will be pulling up some links for some tools that our students can use as well, and showing off some websites that could be really helpful as you're going through those college going steps. So first, I do want to define college. In Iowa, we look at college as a degree awarding institution, and we recognize, various different college pathways. So being in college is inclusive of earning an industry certificate, participating in a registered apprenticeship, receiving a certificate or being part of a credential program, and looking at your associate and bachelor's degrees. So all of those pathways are really things that we consider college, because it's all education and training after high school takes place. So once you graduate, it's likely that you'll fall into one of these pathways. But we do have students that go into the military and the workforce as well, which involves, I would say, similar steps to this college going process, but some are a little more, I'd say, expedited, or you can probably skip some of them as well. Okay, so I will start with the prepare part, and just thinking of all the things that you need to prepare for to be successful in all of those other steps that take place. So these are kind of the very first things you want to be thinking about. This can happen in the beginning of your senior year. This can happen in your junior and sophomore years, or even before that. And then for some of our seniors, this doesn't take place until maybe the second semester of their senior year, or after they graduate, just because their timeline looks a little bit different than our traditional students. So just thinking about all the things you need to do before pursuing the rest of those college going steps. So first, you want to know some things about yourself as you're walking into, choosing a college and narrowing down your search, making decisions, all those types of things. So for you, it's really helpful to know what your interests are, things like your hobbies, things you want to learn more about, things that you participate in already. It is very helpful to also know what your preferences are. So if you're looking at different colleges, what is the type of college that you might want to attend or that you're interested in? What type of size are you looking at? Different social groups that you're part of, how many miles away from home might it be? All of those things are good to have in mind when you're preparing to go to college, just so you have an idea of what you're looking for. It is also good to know what your needs are. So things like what your food options might be. Are you going to be grocery shopping every week, or might you get a meal plan? What does the community offer as far as restaurants, or, just grocery stores? All of those things go, depending on what your food plan is there. Closeness to home, how close do you need to be to home, especially if you've got some family responsibilities. You might have to be closer than you want to be if you're still taking on those responsibilities, but also you might want to get further away too. So just thinking about what you kind of need to do for your personal situation there. And transportation. So knowing if you need a car, or if you're able to, use public transportation and get by with that, just kind of knowing what your need is for your situation there. And then it's very important to also think about what you want. So needs are things that you have to have. Wants are the things that you'd like to have. So looking at what the community size that you'd like to be part of, extracurricular activities you'd like to participate in. You can kind of dream big here, and then really, as you're searching and doing your college search, you can find these types of things about that. So just thinking about all of these factors as you start that process. What I try to tell students is knowing yourself well enough to know what experience you want to have next. So being able to acknowledge what your needs and wants are, and then just being aware of your preferences and your interests. Those will all help you in finding where to spend your time after high school. Okay, so along with this is fit and match. And I've talked a little bit about comparing and kind of making a college list. So when you get to that point in time, you want to compare the institutions that you're looking at. And I will show off a little worksheet we have just in a second about how you can do those types of things, and look at different factors that each institution offers. You do want to connect with the institutions you're interested in, letting them know that you're interested, and setting up, something like a visit. But just making that initial connection with an admissions rep will actually get you very far in that process, as far as making the connection with the college itself, but also working through that application process, the financial aid process. You'll have kind of a go-to person at that institution. So it's really important to at least connect with an admissions rep at the colleges you're interested in. If you're able to, doing a visit at your top choices is really important, especially if you've narrowed it down to, say, one to five places to check out. Doing an in-person visit is always preferred, just because you get a feel of what it's like to be on campus. However, we know that's not always possible, especially if your choice is really far away, or if they're not doing visits at the moment. So just checking with that admissions rep to see how you can make that possible is the best way to go about that. But I will say, if you're looking at some Iowa places, I believe all of our institutions right now are doing in-person visits with some safety precautions in place. So you can definitely, go in person if you'd like to, but they also have virtual tours, which can be really helpful too. And on those virtual tours, they have their student ambassadors, so you can really hear from the student about the college as well. So definitely some options for visiting. It's always really helpful to make a pro and con list, especially when you've got it narrowed down to, I'd say, your top 3 places that you're looking at, and in making a pro con list for each. What do you really like and appreciate about one place versus what might be the more negative things that you're looking at that you'd have to figure out how to work with. So making that list for each can be very helpful and help you kind of weigh out those decisions a lot easier. This is a really big decision. So it's where you're going to spend a lot of money and a lot of time right after high school. So thinking about it as big of a decision as it is, you do want to discuss your choices with people that are important to you. So that could be your family and your friends and school staff that are, really helpful to you. But just making sure that you're thinking about it more than just with yourself, but talking through choices with other people that are really important to you will help you kind of go through the process of weighing out those decisions and making that best decision for you. And then really you want to apply to all of your choices. So once you apply, you get that piece in and it opens that door. So I always recommend applying to all of your choices because you don't know what will happen. If you're thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to be selected to make that, still apply because you don't know until you try. And that option won't exist unless you apply. So definitely get that in. And then I'm going to show this match and fit worksheet. We'll see if the link will work for me here. Okay, awesome. We do offer this worksheet out to our students to compare colleges. Let's see if I can zoom in. Hopefully this looks okay and not too large, but with this worksheet, you can type in your colleges here at the top. We've got this worksheet built for three places. So you can, write in where you're going or what you're comparing here at the top. And then we have a point system. So for your scoring, you would be putting the score in this star column over here to the left of the colleges for each thing that we're looking at for each of those colleges. Or actually just be putting it in this box, the big box here. So 4 to 5 is a perfect match, 2 to 3 kind of meets what your criteria is, and 0 to 1 means it doesn't have what you're looking for. So what we look at with fit and match is where your college is located. So if it's close to home, if you want it to be as far away as possible, somewhere in between. So as you're looking at those, you could put your score in this box for each of those colleges. And then that will give you kind of like a number idea of how your college is scoring that you're comparing. We look at campus size, so being smaller to larger. What kind of geographic area it's in, so city, suburbs, or more in a smaller area. We do have country on there, but I'm thinking like, a small community. For example, like Wartburg is in Waverly, Iowa, which is a smaller Iowa town. You want to be able to live on campus or off campus or at home. So just kind of measuring where you want to be living during that time period. What type of college you prefer, so private or public, if it's women's or men's school, religiously affiliated, HBCU type of universities, all of those can kind of fit into here. Okay, and then if you, what kind of degree you're looking to complete, 2 or 4 years we've got on here. Participating in activities. So this could be sports as far as intramural or actual Division 1 through 3 sports, student government, community service, and other activities on there as well. We do have student services listed here as well, which I always appreciate because if you are a student that's in need of any type of services, this is very important to be looking at. I would say, especially if you're a first gen student as well, because these are connections you're going to want to make that will be very helpful to you on campus. So knowing if there's tutoring and academic support, counseling and health services, disability access, study abroad, and then we've got an other there as well if you're looking for something more specific. Okay, so those are all of the different types of college factors we look at on this worksheet. And then on the back, we do have ideal college where you can write in the information for your college here and all of these different factors, and then write in your majors that you're interested in. And if you're, undecided, that's totally okay. But checking to make sure the college, it's a good idea to look at when the college might ask you to declare a major. So if you are going in and decided how much time you might have to kind of narrow down that decision. Writing down your contact for your admissions department. So making sure you've got a connection there, and then writing down what those requirements are for the ACT, GPA. So you kind of have an idea of what each one requires and all of the more financial type of related things. So your FAFSA, estimated cost of attendance, what type of financial aid is available, if there's other aid available through the college, those types of things. And so seeing these side by side for each college gives you a good idea of which things each one offers, and then how to move forward with making that decision. And then this is just a checkbox kind of thing on what types of things are available or not available for their students. And then there's some others down here that you can put in the blank there. So this worksheet will be linked on our webpage with the recording, so you can access that at any time. And I will also work to put the links to our resources in the chat as well before we wrap up today, if you would like access to those. Okay, let me see if I can Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So that is all about getting ready, about match and fit and kind of making your decision. Now we'll walk into applications and the FAFSA. So some really helpful things to know as you're walking in to complete your applications and your FAFSA. The FAFSA opens October 1st, so it's right around the corner. And it's likely you might have already filled out some applications or will be in the next couple of months. So some good information to have on hand is knowing your social security number. So making sure that you don't have to carry your card around in your wallet or anything, but just being aware of what that number is. We have a lot of students that forget that when they're filling out their application or their FAFSA, and then they have to wait until they can find out what that number is. So keeping that, if you could remember it, great, but taking a photo of your card also helps, all that good stuff. So just make sure you know that by the time you're going to fill out your application in FAFSA. Knowing your phone number is very helpful also, and then your parent and guardian information. So their information being their phone number, where they work sometimes is a question that's asked, and then your address. So just kind of your basic demographic information. Now is a good time to be asking for your references, asking your references for recommendation letters. So making sure you're keeping track of what applications require a recommendation letter and then making those asks during this time is very helpful. And then we always recommend creating type a master resume to track your extracurriculars, your employment, and your volunteer work. And this can be a spreadsheet, this can be a Word document, it can be whatever works best for you, but a place where you keep track of every single thing that you've been involved in, how long you've been involved in it, what roles you've had in your various activities, all of that stuff. Because then if you have it somewhere, you can copy and paste it right over into the application that you're filling out for where it's applicable. Okay, and then you'll want to create an FSA ID. So hopefully you do need that to sign your FAFSA. So if you can complete it before October 1st, that's preferred because you'll be ready and set to sign your FAFSA as soon as you get it completed. So you can go out to fsaid.ed.gov to complete that. And then you and your parent do need separate FSA IDs. So once you set yours up, I would encourage your parent or guardian to set theirs up too. Along with applications can come fee payments. So some of our colleges do ask for an app fee to be paid as you're applying. I will say many of our colleges in Iowa do not require a fee. They don't have a fee at all. But if you are applying to a college that has one and you're worried about paying that, definitely check into if you qualify for a waiver. If you do qualify for a waiver, there's usually some paperwork that has to be completed to get that waiver, to get your application fee waived. So you'll have a few more extra steps to take to get that fee waived and to get that paperwork completed. Okay, and for your decision, as you're preparing to make your decision, this can happen really at any point in time, but I will tell you for most students, it happens in the spring, really close to graduation. So don't pressure yourself to make that decision right away as you're applying and getting your acceptance letters. You don't have to do that until later after you've had time to consider everything. So as you're thinking about your decision, do consider all of your options, see where you've been accepted, do those compare and contrast, figure out the best fits for you, visit campus, all of those things to help you make that decision. You definitely want to discuss your financials. So if that's sitting down with your parent or guardian and having a conversation around who can pay for what, how much money do you need to have prepared, who is willing to help you with which expenses, those types of things. That's really good to know as you're going into college, so you have an idea of how things are being taken care of financially. Visiting campus is always very helpful. I will say connecting with the current students at the places that you're considering is also very helpful. Just knowing what their experience is like, especially in the last couple of years with how COVID has affected things, it would be very eye-opening to talk to a current student at one of your decisions. So that way you have a good idea of what their experience has been like, how they've coped, and different things the college is doing to help with that. But when you do decide, you do need to complete and submit all of your paperwork to let the institution know that you've decided to attend there. So there are some pieces that go with that. And then once you get that all submitted, you've officially decided. So you should be celebrating yourself. Do not forget to celebrate. It is a big decision. There's a lot of thinking, a lot of work that goes into that. So make sure that you do celebrate that. And at the end of the day, you really want to decide for yourself what's best for you and what you want. So there's, you'll get a lot of feedback around your decision-making process, where you're considering, you'll get people's opinions left and right. But at the end of the day, you want to make the decision that's suitable for you and that you want to do. So just remember that. Okay, and then with Go, this is actually getting to campus and getting to class. So after you make that decision, there's still more things to do. You need to complete your enrollment. So you want to get enrolled in all of your courses and registered for those. Most colleges have an orientation that will take place before courses begin. So if you can attend that, that's very helpful. You get an idea of what types of classes are happening, what campus looks like, how it feels as you're going to class, all of those things. If you're going to have a roommate, at least meeting them virtually is very helpful too. So you guys can figure out things for your moving in process, who's bringing what, make sure that you have some common interests and can get along too is always very helpful. So just, making sure you make an effort to meet them before you show up and move in together on that day is very helpful. Getting any supplies that you might need. So, you have a lot of school supplies now that you can carry over as well, but there might be some new pieces of equipment that you might need or different types of supplies too. So just making sure you've got everything ready to go. I will say with this, you might learn, in your courses that your note-taking style is different than it was in high school. So you might be buying a different notebook after you figure out that what you had and what you did in high school just isn't going to work for you in college. So, be open to, you're not going to get everything the day before you start, but allow yourself to, purchase different things as you find the need for that as well. And then lastly, ensuring your financial aid is in place. So making sure, all of the funds are coming through and everything's kind of taken care of on your student account. All right, so I will jump into these next few steps. Some of them are kind of short, and then that finance one is just a little bit long, so bear with me. But with your applications, what we suggest is that you apply to at least 3 different schools. We say to apply to a safe school, a school that you know and are confident that you will be accepted. A target school, one that you're kind of reaching for, and I would say 90% confident that you'll be accepted, and then a dream or a reach school. So one that you're kind of questioning, oh, I'm not quite sure if I'll make it into this one, but it doesn't hurt to try. So applying to those areas of schools makes for a good plethora of options to choose from once you've got those applications in. And then submitting any documentation. So test scores, fee waivers, essays, letters of recommendation, your transcript, all of that needs to be submitted with your application. So just make sure you're following through with what the application asks for. Many schools are waiving the test scores, but in lieu of test scores, they're asking for personal statements or they're asking for your unofficial transcript. So they're asking for a few more pieces of documentation if you aren't going to submit a test score, versus if you do submit a test score, you might not have to submit as much. So it's really important just to the schools that you're applying to follow their applications specifically, because they will all be different. And then being aware of your personal information. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but knowing your social security number, your phone number, your address, your email address, knowing what your GPA and your class rank is can be very helpful too, because there might be quite a few applications that ask for that. And then just being aware of your parent information as well. Another thing that what you will find on applications that you might not expect is your high school's information. So knowing what your high school's address is, your high school's phone number, maybe the name of your registrar, so you can easily connect with them about your transcript as well, or your school counselor. That would be very helpful. So just keeping those in mind. And I did touch on master resume and really just talking about how you can copy and paste those activities that are applicable to the application you're using. So if you keep it in one central spot, it's really easy to just transfer that over. And you can keep all of that information in one place. I'm a huge fan of Google Sheets, and I use a lot of tabs for specific things to keep track of, all of the different places my info needs to go. But you can definitely use Word, Office applications, all of those things, whatever works best for you. Keeping track of your academic information is very helpful. So the courses that you've taken and the grades you've received for those, this will all be on your transcript. So if you've got a copy of your unofficial transcript, perfect. If you want to type this into your master resume, it's a great place to keep it, because again, you can copy and paste that right over. So I would just recommend, if you've got that transcript, put that info in, and then it's all in one spot. With your extracurricular information, you want to keep track of any employment, how long you've been employed with each employer, different positions you might have had along that path, any volunteer work that you're doing, same thing there, how long you're involved, what types of different things did you do. If you're involved in any community clubs or school clubs, keeping track of those, and school activities as well. So just making sure you're keeping track of all of the different things that you're involved with. If you've gotten involved with any special projects or awards, or you've earned any honors, I would keep track of those as well. One example I like to point out is if you're in Boy Scouts or if you're an Eagle Scout, they have to do a community project. So just keeping track of that and all the things you've done to make that successful can be very helpful too, because that might be an example of something that you discuss within an essay. So it's really easy to just refer to the information you've already got down. Okay, we're to the finance part. So here's not the most exciting part, but hopefully we've got some really cool tools and resources for you to use as you're thinking about how am I going to afford college and how does this all work? So there's different types of financial aid. There's free money, borrowed money, and earned money. Free money is a grant or a scholarship. So you should never, ever be paying to apply for a scholarship or a grant because they're giving you free money and you shouldn't have to pay to receive free money. So if you see the word grant or scholarship, that is free money that you do not have to pay back, and you do not have to pay to apply for. Borrowed money are loans to be paid back, and loans they come in all shapes and forms. So all shapes and sizes here. The lowest interest rate is on the federal loans, and you can only qualify for federal loans if you complete the FAFSA. So that will be, we promote that as the first stop shop for your loans, just because it's the lowest interest rate. So very good financially, but then you also have to complete that FAFSA to get to be able to receive those loans as well. And I will talk about the FAFSA momentarily. Plus loans are also through FAFSA completion, but they are only provided to your parent. So as your parent is completing the FAFSA, they can qualify for a plus loan. The plus loan does do a credit check and has a bit of a higher interest rate. So something to think about on your parent side and how to go about financing college. Plus loans can be very, very helpful, but it's just good to be aware of the different things that come with having a plus loan before you sign on to that. And then the last option here would be private loans. These are a little more challenging to pay back just because they don't have all of the different payback options that our federal loans offer. So things like income-based repayment, not every private loan will offer that. And they do have a higher interest rate, and they might not always be able to be deferred either. So overall, private loans are just a little bit more challenging to get involved with, but that doesn't mean that you can't take them out and use them. They do have that higher interest rate, but still an option if that's what you're in need of. And if you know that you're taking out a smaller amount, and you're able to make payments on that while you're in school, it might be an easier option for your specific financial situation, but just being aware of the different challenges that might exist with that. Okay, and then earned money is federal work study or any type of employment that you have, outside of your studies. Federal work study is an award that's offered through the FAFSA, and it's financial aid. You can only earn federal work study through a federal work study job. So those are campus jobs that might qualify for federal work study. They can also be off campus, but they do have to be part of this program. So when you get your financial aid offer, you might see that you've got a $1,500 federal work study award, but that money, just to be aware of, has to be earned. So you're not getting that money right away. You do earn it through the job that you would have through the federal work study program. And then if you have employment outside of that, that is your earned money, just like a regular employment option would be. Okay, the FAFSA. Okay, what day is it? The 23rd. So we've got like 7 days until this FAFSA opens. So if you can get your FSA ID completed, that is excellent, because that will help your process with the FAFSA so much more when it opens on the 1st. But to complete the FAFSA, it's fafsa.ed.gov, and then you'll enter your FSA ID to get started, and then you'll start entering a bunch of financial information. There are some things that have been put in place to make that easier this year. So if you've got your tax forms, you can use the IRS tool, and that'll just draw in your information for you. So you don't have to, be looking at your form very diligently and looking for the exact line of information that you need to put on there. So I always recommend using that if you're able to. But having that FSA ID will help you be able to submit it as well. So you have to have that to be able to sign it. You will be completing the FAFSA for the 22-23 academic year. So there are 2 FAFSAs that are open or will be open on October 1st. One is for the current school year that we are in, and one is for the one that you'll likely be applying for. You always want to complete the FAFSA for the school year that you need the aid for, not the one that you're currently in. So try to remember that as you're selecting the FAFSA that you need. This FAFSA will also be looking at your 2020 tax returns. So it looks prior taxes, so 2 years before, and so it will be looking at 2020 this year. I always say complete the FAFSA, even if you think you won't qualify for any aid, it is likely that you will. It is possible it could only be federal loans that you qualify for, but like I mentioned, those are your lowest interest rate loans. So those are the best loans that you can get right now for, paying for education. So even if that's all that you get, at least you've got those, and you don't have to be looking at private loans to cover those expenses. You also need to complete your FAFSA to receive any type of state aid. So if you're getting state aid from the state of Iowa, because you're an Iowa high school student, we have lots of scholarships offered out to our students, but they do require the FAFSA to be able to be eligible to receive them. So even if you're thinking like, I'm not going to get anything out of the FAFSA that's useful to me, but you're eligible for state aid, and that can be scholarships and grants, which is money you don't have to pay back. You still have to complete that FAFSA to receive it. And if you do complete your FAFSA, what we know about our students that are completing the FAFSA is they're actually 90% more likely to enroll. So this is yet another step in that college going process that gets you closer to enrollment. Okay, some FAFSA misconceptions. There's a lot of misconceptions around the FAFSA, and many of them aren't, I would say, don't have a lot of validity behind them. So when you're thinking about FAFSA, if you think your parents are making too much money, that's usually not the case. It is more likely that you will get some type of aid offered to you through the FAFSA. So I would say always complete that. I mean, there can be some instances where parents are making too much money and you won't get, the Pell Grant, which is money you don't have to pay back, but you might get those the student loans. So that's always the option there. If you're not going to college, even if you're not planning to go to college right now, I would still complete your FAFSA in case your plan changes later. I can't tell you how many students that we have that are very much against the FAFSA when we first start FAFSA season, because they don't have any intention of going to college. And then by the time that they graduate, they're thinking, oh, I need to get my FAFSA completed because I am actually enrolling in some courses in the fall. So no matter what your plan is right now, definitely still get it completed, because it's free, first of all, so you're not losing anything, but then it also tells you what you're eligible for. So you might be getting funds that you didn't even think that you would have, and then that possibility becomes possible now. So definitely still fill it out. If you support yourself, you don't need your parents' information. This isn't necessarily true. So if even if you're living on your own, but you're not emancipated, for example, then you will still need your parents' information. It is up to the university to decide if you're an independent or dependent student. So if you are in a situation where this might be warranted, connect with the financial aid office at the college that you're looking at, because they are the folks that can provide the assistance that you'll need to continue with your FAFSA without your parents' information. You do not have to wait until you're accepted into any college to complete your FAFSA. The FAFSA will ask you to put down some schools to put down some colleges that you want your FAFSA to go to, but you do not have to be accepted into any of them to be able to file your FAFSA. So you can file your FAFSA before you even apply to college, period. You can just submit that FAFSA before you even apply. Okay, I only have to file the FAFSA once. I wish that were true. But you do have to file it every single year that you might need financial aid. So if you're planning to go for, say, a 2-year degree, you'll have to complete it for both of those years, a 4-year, all 4 of those years. If you're planning to go beyond that for like grad school, you'll probably want to complete it for those too. So it is an annual form. You can't just fill it out once and call it good for the rest of the time that you're in school. One other misconception is you can share your FSA ID with your parents. That is not true. Your parents do need their own FSA ID to be able to sign your FAFSA with you. So you have to have 2 separate ones there. We get a lot of feedback from parents specifically about the government just wanting to know how much money they make by filling out this form. That's really not true at all. They're just looking to make the EFC, which is the expected family contribution. So the only thing they're looking at your income for is to determine what the EFC is for the student. So they really, aren't looking at it for any other reasons. FAFSA is only for low-income families. Although low-income families benefit more from completing the FAFSA, it is not only for low-income families. We have a lot of mid to higher income families that still receive aid out of the FAFSA. And even if you are in a higher income family, but you're looking to get, say, the last dollar scholarship, for example, you still have to complete the FAFSA anyways. So even if you for sure know that your family is not going to get anything out of the FAFSA, you still have to get it completed to receive the scholarship. So that is one caveat there. Some common mistakes we see with the FAFSA as students and parents are filling them out is that students are using their school email address. You want to use your personal email address just because after you graduate, your school email address will likely end, and then you can't get into your FAFSA for the next year, and you get locked out, and you have to go through this whole password process and set up a whole new FSA ID, and it can be a really big pain. So just if you don't have your own personal email address yet, I would definitely set up your own email account and use that email address for your FAFSA. You do have to use separate emails for each person as well. So your parent guardian has to have a different email address than the student. You can't be using like a family email address, for example. Well, one of you could, but one of you would need a different one. Cost of the FAFSA is free. You should never be paying to complete your FAFSA. So if you're seeing services come at you that say, we charge $50 an hour to complete your FAFSA, not true. Don't do that. It is free, and we've got plenty of resources in Iowa that will help you walk through the FAFSA for free. So you shouldn't be paying for that. FSA ID, like I've said, both student and parent need one. On the FAFSA, there is an IRS tool. So if you enter the data exactly as it appears on your tax return, it'll pull that data from the IRS and stick it right into your FAFSA. And you actually won't even see the numbers come through. It'll just do it for you, and then you'll go right on to the next step. So it's very easy. One thing to be aware of is you have exactly as it appears is very literal. So if your tax return has the word street written out, STREET, you have to do that the same way on the form. If you put ST, it will not find your data. So it does have to be pretty exact. If you don't have a social security number, you can enter all zeros into that part of your FAFSA. So that's definitely possible. If we have a lot of folks that think if they don't have a social security number, they can't fill it out. In fact, all you have to do is put zeros for that. And then the filing year I've already hit on, but make sure you're filling out that 22-23 FAFSA, not the 21-22 FAFSA. Okay, these are some scholarships. I am looking at time, so I'm not going to click on these links to review each of these scholarship places. But if you're a student on here looking for scholarships, these are some really great scholarship resources. Raise Me is a scholarship platform that will pay you for achievements that you complete in high school. So it could be getting an A on an exam. It can be really any type of achievement they've got going. And then they match the colleges that will provide a scholarship for that achievement. So for example, if you're planning to go to Iowa State, there's quite a few achievements on there. And once you get your account set up, you can start earning scholarship funds for those achievements that you complete in high school. So if you're already doing these things in high school, you might as well earn some money for those. Scholarsnap.org is where you can fill in your information and use it for multiple scholarships. So it's a really great tool. You kind of make your profile first, and then they fit that to different scholarships and fit it to the information that you put in there. Going Merry is you get matched to different scholarships that are suitable to you. So again, similar to Scholar Snap, where you fill out your kind of profile and then they'll push scholarships to you that match the information you put in there. College Board has a really nice scholarship system set up. You can receive scholarships for completing the college going steps. So you can get a scholarship for completing the FAFSA. And you can get a scholarship for making a list of colleges that you want to check out, or for applying to college. All of those college going steps that we've been talking about, they give out money for completing those. So definitely a place to get hooked up with if you're already doing these steps anyways. And then niche is the last one I'll mention. You do not have to sign up. You don't have to write essays. There's no GPA requirements. They're kind of like fun, quirky, one-off scholarships. So if you're into something unique, that would definitely be a platform to be looking at. Okay, with financial aid offers, so after you do all of this work, after you get it all done, you will get a financial aid offer from the institutions that you have sent your FAFSA to, that you've applied to, and they will give you kind of a breakdown of what your financial aid looks like. And it will look different from every college that you get a financial aid offer from. And so it's really important to compare. So I will click on this link and review this worksheet pretty quickly. But again, we will provide this out on our website when we get this moving as well. So this is Iowa specific, similar to Match and Fit. You put the names of the colleges you're comparing up here at the top. And then you look at each college's cost of attendance, which includes tuition and fees and room and board. Other college expenses can be things like books, supplies, the things that you might need personally to go into that cost of attendance. So something like equipment, like a laptop, could go in here as well. And then you can compare side by side what those are. You add up the total. And so that just gives you an idea of that expected cost of attendance. And then scholarships and grants is your free money. So from the FAFSA, you will learn if you are eligible for the Pell Grant or the FSEOG grant. And in here, you would put that number. It will be the same for every college because it's federal funds. So that won't change no matter what college you go to. And then we have our Iowa specific scholarships. So if you're looking at a private college, you will be looking at Iowa tuition grant more than likely. And so you would put that in the college that it fits. So it would be with your private college. Future Ready Iowa Last Dollar Scholarship is for most of our community, or for all of our community colleges in a couple of 4 years. So you would put that number in where it fits, where you're comparing. And then any other Iowa scholarships and grants you would add in here as well. And then institutions have their own scholarships. So college grants and scholarships would go here. This will be a different number for each column because each college is going to offer you something different for their grants and scholarships. And then the other grants and scholarships could be like your local ones. So like I know the Rotary Club gives out a scholarship usually within their community, and that would be a local scholarship that you would add in here. This number will likely be the same all the way across the board because it's other scholarships that you've gotten outside of the college. And then our last part here is work, study, and loans. We keep this separate because it's that earned and loaned money. So it is money that you will either earn or have to pay back, whereas the free aid up here is aid that you do not have to pay back. So work study will be the same across all of these because it's a federal award, so it'll be provided to you federally. Same with our student loans, subsidized and unsubsidized will have the same amount. So once you get all of these numbers in, what you're looking at is the totals from each area, and you're taking your total free aid plus your work study loans and putting that here. And then at the end here, it tells you what your out-of-pocket cost will be. So you take that estimated cost of attendance from the top and you subtract your total financial aid offer from here, and then that'll give you the out-of-pocket expense that's still left to cover. So then you have an idea for each of the colleges you're comparing, what's the exact amount that I'm going to have to pay to make that option work. Okay. So that is a worksheet that will hopefully be helpful as you're making some financial decisions. Tuitionfit.org is also very helpful. You can go out to their website and put in your financial aid offer. It will compare it to students that are similar to you and you can kind of see what other students are receiving for their financial aid offer and compare that. And then you can use that to negotiate your financial aid award with your college as well. We do have some separate sessions that were recorded for tuitionfit.org too. So if you are interested in that, please do refer back to our website to watch the recordings on those. They go more in depth on how all of that works. With financial aid, you do want to discuss it with folks that are going to be helping you. So you want to discuss your offer with your family, probably your college admissions rep to make sure you're, getting everything you can be, and any high school staff that might be helping you make that decision. And then you want to configure the actual costs, like I showed on that worksheet, what more it will take to get there so you can prepare yourself for what that out-of-pocket expense will be. And if you do have a special circumstance in need of professional judgment, you want to work directly with the college that you're applying to and hoping to receive that from. So it's best to, I would say, if you know exactly where you're going, it's really good to get acquainted with the financial aid office because they will be your best friends if you do need to work through a special circumstance. And I feel like that will probably be pretty common for our students heading out now because COVID had a big effect on employment. So we're looking at tax returns from 2020, which could show, pretty large changes if there was a big change in employment for anybody. Okay, and then decide. This is the best and the most fun part. So most of our schools in Iowa celebrate our students' decisions. I would say participate in those efforts to celebrate you. It's a very fun time. This whole presentation sounded like a lot of work that you have to do, and that should all be celebrated. So as soon as you make your decision, celebrate that and get involved in your school's celebration as well. We have lots of students that will create a fun TikTok or a Snapchat to reveal their decision to their peers and their family and post that on social media. I love the motto, treat yourself, because you should be doing nice things for yourself. And that should be a lifestyle thing that you do. So this is one reason to do that. And be proud of what your decision is. So you can put out a yard sign, have a window sign, get some college swag, just take pride in what your decision is. And then think about your next steps. So you want to notify all your colleges, prepare for the summer, and work with your admissions rep on those next steps that will help you get there. So with that, we'll walk right into go. I did mention, when you do make your decision, unfortunately, all the work is not over yet, but you're getting close. So register and attend your orientation over the summer, enroll in your courses, make sure your fees are paid. Colleges have different vaccine requirements, so make sure you're getting those taken care of if you haven't already, and make sure those are getting put over to the health office at your college as well. And with that, any necessary paperwork that they're asking for. So that could be medical records, that could be your final transcript from your high school, that could be loan paperwork, anything that they're going to need to make you successfully enrolled. If possible throughout the summer, it is helpful to meet your roommate, visit campus once again, especially when you have your class schedule. You can walk around campus and figure out where you need to be, where your classrooms are. I always did that probably my my second year in, just because I had anxiety about like, how far is it going to take me to, or how long is it going to take me to walk from one end to the other? Those types of things. Get involved on campus. You do belong there, and you made the decision to be there, so make the best out of it. And then get yourself some swag. You'll probably get free swag for all the time that you're there as well. So you don't necessarily have to purchase it, but just taking pride in that decision. All right, I threw a lot of information at you. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate at all to contact me. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute and ask. But otherwise, college is a big thing, but it's worth it. And it can be a scary process, but it's definitely worth all of the effort and time that you're going to put into it. And you'll have, great memories and an education path to last forever. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. As Jamie said, if there's any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, or drop those into the chat as we wrap up for the day. As a reminder, there are other Back on Track sessions happening. And there is that link in the chat that we will share with those additional sessions. And again, access to the recording will be provided in the coming weeks. We also wanted to shout out to the Sunday, this coming Sunday, the Golden Circle College and Career Fairs happening from 1 to 3 in Altoona. And if you're interested in learning more about this or attending, we'll drop the link into the chat as well. It's a great way to connect with admissions counselors and employers. Thanks again, Jamie, for sharing your time and expertise with us this morning. It was a great session, and yeah, we really appreciate you doing this for us. So with that, I think we'll close out the session. Thanks so much, and have a great day.